We have new details out of Iraq, where the tide of battle has turned, at least for the moment. After days of retreating, the Iraqi army stands and fights the terrorist forces known as ISIS. Concern is growing that ISIS could use Iraq as a base for terrorism.
These are the vicious, the worst of the worst. If they get back into the United States or in Western Europe against Western targets, I see that as the biggest threat today.
Officials say Baghdad may be the next front line as terrorist forces are stalled about 60 miles away. The capital is now heavily militarized, prepared for a siege from ISIS. And with the latest developments in Iraq, American veterans who served in the war are watching their efforts to help improve life there unravel. One local veteran spoke with 7 Action News reporter Mike Woolfolk this afternoon. Mike joins us in the studio now with more. Mike?
Dave, you know, I had a great conversation with retired Marine Corps Major Christopher Kolomchek. He tells me that watching the current happenings in Iraq can be frustrating, but he tells me they are not totally unexpected, and no matter where things go from here, he knows the sacrifices of our men and women in uniform were not in vain.
This is Fallujah here.
Retired Major Christopher Kolomchek looks back on his service in Iraq with pride. He knows that he and his fellow veterans played a major role in making Iraq and America better places.
After 9/11, we all felt strongly, especially those of us in the service, that we had to do something to make sure something like 9/11 never happened again.
Major Kolomchek describes the war zone as you might expect, calling it a hot spot. But he says what he saw in Iraq was not unlike what we might see here in inner city Detroit.
Does a little old lady point out everybody involved in criminal activity, knowing that the police can only do so much, and later that night after the police leave, her house may be firebombed, she may be shot. I mean, these are the same exact type problems that we had in Iraq.
He calls the Iraqi people survivalists, doing what's necessary to protect themselves and their families, and says he doesn't see how we can avoid military action in the current situation. But he adds that America must be committed to certain things in Iraq.
Establish a stable government, a stable society, a good free market economy where people can make a living. Unless we're willing to do that from the very beginning, even the private on the street recognizes that this is only temporary.
No matter the outcome, Kolomchek hopes his fellow veterans understand the significance of what they've done.
Everything we did was worth it, and I'm pretty confident that there'll be many, many more generations of like-minded men and women that are willing to make the same sacrifices.
Really some great perspectives there from Major Kolomchek. Our thanks to him for allowing us to interrupt his quiet Father's Day with his family. The Iraq War has come at quite a price to the United States. We lost 4,486 soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen, 160 of those from right here in Michigan. More than 30,000 others have been wounded, and the total cost, including future medical and disability expenses, could top $2.2 trillion. In the studio, Mike Woolfolk, 7 Action News.